All empires fall: Rome, Persia, the British Empire, and now, the United States. Once an unchallenged superpower, the cracks are beginning to show. Economic decline, political division, and rising global challengers all point to one inevitable truth. America is no longer alone at the top. China, Canada, and Europe are not just adapting to this shift. They are accelerating it. Is this the end of the American era? Let's find out. The fall of Rome wasn't sudden. It was the result of economic mismanagement, political corruption, and the rise of external rivals. In the same way, the United States, long the dominant force in global affairs, is seeing the pillars of its empire erode. Rome's economy collapsed under the weight of excessive spending and unsustainable military campaigns. The U.S., burdened with over $34 trillion in debt, is facing the same fate. The petrodollar, once unshakable, is now being challenged by China's trade deals, as countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia consider alternatives. Just as Rome debased its currency to prolong its empire, the United States has relied on money printing and deficit spending to maintain dominance. But history shows that no empire can outrun economic collapse forever. The signs of decline are not just economic. They are woven into the fabric of American society. Economic inequality has reached record levels, mirroring the final years of Rome when wealth concentrated in the hands of a few elites, while the working class struggled. The average American is buried under rising costs of housing, healthcare, and education, while billionaires accumulate unprecedented fortunes. In ancient Rome, the wealthy class hoarded land and resources, driving social unrest. Today, corporate monopolies and financial institutions hold an iron grip over key industries, consolidating power. Social unrest is another sign of internal decay. Just as Rome saw mass protests, civil uprisings, and violent power struggles, the United States is witnessing growing instability. Political polarization has reached dangerous levels, with ideological divides now deeper than ever. The Roman Republic collapsed when political factions refused to cooperate, leading to the rise of emperors who ruled with absolute power. In the United States, political deadlock and legislative gridlock have made governance nearly impossible. Elections are no longer a peaceful transition of power, but a battleground of accusations, legal battles, and violent protests. The very institutions that once symbolized American stability are now viewed with skepticism, mirroring the declining trust that marked the last days of Rome. The role of corporations in shaping American decline cannot be ignored. The Roman Senate became increasingly controlled by the wealthy elite, using government policies to enrich themselves at the expense of the common people. The United States has followed the same path, with corporations exerting unprecedented influence over lawmakers. Lobbyists dictate policies that benefit major industries, while ordinary citizens struggle to have their voices heard. Military spending continues to skyrocket, not out of necessity, but because the military-industrial complex profits from endless conflict. The result. Meanwhile, China, Canada, and Europe are strengthening their positions. China is leading the charge, not just militarily, but economically and technologically. The Belt and Road Initiative mirrors Rome's vast trade networks, extending influence far beyond its borders. Where America once led in innovation, China is surging ahead in AI, quantum computing, and military technology. Hypersonic weapons, once a theoretical advantage for the U.S., are now in China's arsenal. The South China Sea, much like the contested borders of Rome, is becoming the fault line of a shifting world order. The U.S. Navy, once unchallenged, now faces a rapidly growing Chinese fleet. The same overconfidence that led Rome to neglect its military balance is repeating itself in Washington. Meanwhile, Canada and Europe are quietly maneuvering to reduce their dependence on the United States. Canada, historically tied to the U.S. economy, is expanding its trade with China and Europe, diversifying its economic future. Europe, once reliant on American military protection, is pushing for strategic autonomy. France and Germany have openly questioned their dependence on U.S. leadership, just as the Western Roman Empire struggled with internal divisions before its fall. NATO, once the cornerstone of American power, is seeing fractures emerge as European nations prioritize their own interests over blind allegiance to Washington. But the most dangerous sign for the United States comes from within. Rome was not defeated by external enemies alone. It collapsed from the inside. Political polarization, civil unrest, and economic disparity weakened its ability to govern. The United States is facing the same fate. Distrust in government is at an all-time high. Protests, riots, and even talks of secession reflect a fractured society, just as Rome suffered from infighting and corruption before its downfall. While China, Canada, and Europe are strengthening their global positions, the U.S. remains paralyzed by internal conflict. Even the moral and cultural decline of Rome finds echoes in today's America. Rome was once a society built on civic duty, innovation, and discipline, but it decayed into one of excess, corruption, and short-term gratification. American culture, once defined by progress and hard work, is now centered on consumerism, distraction, and a relentless pursuit of entertainment. Just as Rome built grand spectacles to keep its restless citizens entertained while ignoring their suffering, modern America is drowning in reality television, social media addiction, and endless streaming services, numbing the public to the deeper structural problems within society. The decline of Rome was not the end of civilization, but it was the end of an era. The United States may not collapse overnight, but its uncontested reign as the world's superpower is fading. The world is becoming multipolar, and the challengers are ready. China is rewriting the rules of global influence. Canada and Europe are carving their own paths. The question is not whether the American empire will fall, but how long it can delay the inevitable.